Okay, so now that you have the primary colors done, we are going to start mixing up our secondary colors. Now, the easiest way to do this is to do it gradually. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start with my yellow. And I'm going to add a touch of red so that I can get my yellow-orange. Okay, then I'll add a little bit more red to get orange and even more red to get red-orange. So, before I mixed up my primaries so that I could do this, so all I need to do now is add a little bit of red to my yellow. So I will take my brush, make sure it's clean, okay, and with your damp brush, pick up a little bit of red on the tip of your brush and drop it into that yellow. Okay, so that changed color a little bit. I might need a little bit more red, maybe a little bit more. Okay, you want to do this gradually. You don't want to add too much and then it ends up being too orange. Okay, so that looks pretty good. That's a nice yellowy orange. So again, go back in here into this segment. Now, this is definitely too light. And what that means is there is too much water to pigment. Okay, so a couple ways I can fix that. I can let it dry and build up another layer of yellow-orange a little bit later. Or right now, while it's still damp, I can add some more yellow to this puddle. Okay, so you have to think about it as particles sort of floating in water. So if you had a cup of coffee and you wanted to make it sweeter, you would add some sugar, right? And if it's not sweet enough, you add more sugar. So it's the same concept. We're starting with water, and then we add pigment to make the certain colors that we want. And if they're not strong enough, we add more. Okay, so that should be better. Okay, and I'm going to pick up a little bit more red just to make sure it's a good shade of yellow-orange. Okay, and then I'll go back in and see how now that's a little bit darker. Okay, and darker doesn't mean more red or more orange, it just means more saturated. Okay. So I might let that dry and go back in later and build up some more color. Okay, so now I'm going to pick up some more red and get an orange. Okay, and again, you do that gradually. And if I put it down next to my yellow-orange, I'm like, you know what? It's kind of similar. Maybe I need to add more red to it, and that's okay. You can do this gradually, and it's a lot of times trial and error. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Pretty good orange there. Okay, and if you do happen to get any puddles on your paper, just get a clean piece of paper towel and dab up those puddles so that they don't ruin your painting. Okay, so now I need to make my red orange. So again, I'll pick up a little bit more red and add it to that orange. You always want to start with the lighter color and add the darker color gradually. Okay, so maybe a little bit more red, and then I can paint that segment. And what we're doing here is wet on dry, meaning the paper is dry and our brush is wet with the watercolor. So sometimes it's a little bit more difficult to blend. So on the other side of this color wheel, I'm going to show you how to do the wet and wet technique, which some of you might want to try. Okay, so there's my red orange. Okay, so I go from yellow to yellow orange, orange, red. Okay, so then next we will mix up our greens and blue greens. So I used all my yellow to make my orange, so I need to make some more yellow. So I'm going to do that next to my blue here because That's going to be what I mix with it to get my green. So again, I'm going to pick up that yellow pigment. And because our orange was a little bit light, I'm going to take care right now to make this maybe a little bit more concentrated. Okay. So there's my yellow. Okay. And now, clean brush, I will pick up a little bit of blue. Okay, blue's pretty dark, so you want to go slowly with the blue and the yellow. So I want to get a nice yellow green. It's still pretty yellowy. Maybe add a little bit more blue. Okay. And then I will paint my yellow-green segment. Now the more paint you add to this doesn't necessarily mean the darker it will become. It's watercolor paint, so it's transparent. So by glopping on big puddles of paint, you're not necessarily going to get a darker area of paint. So whatever it comes out, let it be, let it dry, and you can add another layer later. Okay. Now I'm going to add some more blue so I can get a pretty green. Now you don't want to use the green that comes in the set because it's kind of too bright. All the secondary colors in here are just super bright and kind of look fake. Okay, so that's a nice green, I think. Maybe a little bit more blue. Okay, now I can paint that green segment of my color wheel. I'll pick up a little bit of water so I can blend a little bit easier down here so it gets nice and light at the end. A little bit more green here. So now, because my color is kind of transparent here, I could keep adding pigment and more pigment, or I mean more paint and more paint here, but it's not going to make this any darker at this point. You're just going to make it soggy, and it may end up ruining the paper. So I can let that dry and again go back in later, or add more of the pigment from here to this paint. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, before we get too far ahead, I'm going to actually pick up some more yellow to add so this can get a little bit more concentrated. Okay, now I need to make my blue green, so I need to get some more blue, mix that in. Pretty good. And there's my blue-green. Okay. You guys are all going to figure out sort of what works best for you as you're doing this. You know, how to mix your colors, how to hold your brush. But again, you want to be a little bit gentle because it's watercolor. Okay. Okay, so there's my blue-green. I'm going to clean my brush now. And now I can work on my purples. So here, you are going to start with your red. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit more pigment so that we can make sure we're at the right saturation. Now I'm just going to add a little bit of blue. Okay? And I want my red violet. So same way, it's going to be a little bit gradual. Okay. So that looks pretty good. So let me show you guys the wet and wet technique, which you might like to try. So I'm going to clean my brush, pick up some clean water on my brush, just water, okay? And this is my red violet segment, so I'm just going to get this slightly damp. I don't want to see any puddles, okay? And you want to use nice clean water because you don't want to contaminate your paint. So now that's damp. When I drop my paint on there, it sort of bleeds quite easily. So that's a really nice way to blend your colors. When you start on your final project, that will be useful for doing the background to get a nice wash of color. Okay, so it's nice and light in the center there. I need to build up, oops, some of the value on the outside. It's a little bit light right now, so I'm actually going to pick up some more red. And sometimes when you're painting, it really is trial and error. No one ever mixes the right color the right way the first time. So I'll pick up some more blue. Okay, and then go back in here, and now I can make that outside edge a little bit darker. Okay. So as you guys work, you may find that that's a little bit easier in helping you blend your colors. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and add some more blue to this paint here so that I can get my purple. So that looks pretty good. That's a pretty purple. Pick up some clean water on my brush so I can blend this. Okay, I'm going to get a little bit more purple for the outside edge. Okay, and then the last one, we're going to add even more blue so that we get a blue violet or blue purple. Okay, that looks pretty good. And there we go. And it's more like an indigo color, like a blue-violet color. Some clean water on my brush so I can blend. It's nice and light. Okay, and there you have it. There's your color wheel. And then you might decide that you want to go back in and touch up certain areas. Like maybe this red segment doesn't look so great, so maybe I want to pick up some more red. And get this a little bit darker on the edge. Okay, and then maybe pick up some water so I can blend that in a little bit better. Okay, and that is the color wheel. That's how to mix those colors. Okay, so we'll work on the second section in the next video.